Hello YouTubers, thanks for joining me again today. I am going to be going over PLL recognition from two sides. So being able to only look at two sides of the cube, not all four, in order to recognize what PLL you have. So for instance, you gotta look at this cube right now from this angle and tell me that I have a V-perm. So you should be able to do that, and by the end of this, hopefully you will understand at least how to. Now, mastering it takes a little bit of practice. So I've put some stuff in the link that I think will, or in the description, I think will help you guys out a lot in terms of practicing. But for now, we're just going to go over it. So first of all, I'd like to state that I learned first how to do this PLL recognition from Sarah Strong's website, which is SA967 st.webs.com/PLL Recog guide.htm. I don't know if you can actually see that, but you might want to go check that out. I think she did an excellent job of showing someone of intuitively teaching you how to understand what you have. And I'm very glad I went through this. So I recommend that you peek over this entire thing at least a little bit, and definitely the first part before you watch this video, because I'm going to be working a little bit off of what she's done. But my only problem with her version of two-side PLL recognition is I don't think it's fast. Like, it can be fast, and I can totally see how after a while you would be able to do this at about the same speed you do regular PLL recognition, except you don't need to look at the other side, so you might have a little bit faster. But I think that it requires too much looking around and thinking for it to be really fast. So the method I came up with is a little bit faster. But first, I'm going to use some of the stuff that she does, because I love some of the pictures she had on here, and I think she did an excellent job at explaining this. So first, there are certain cases that I nor she are really going to go over, because they should be pretty much self-explanatory to you. And you can check those out on her page, right here. I can briefly give you a little bit of a hint as to why each of these are so easy. So first of all, if you ever see that all corners are permuted, like this, 1, 2, 3, corners permuted, if 3 corners are permuted, the fourth has to be permuted. So that's just something you should know. So you know you have here a U-perm, H-perm, or Z-perm. And you see that you have a bar. It means the only thing you can have is a U-perm. So then the question is, which U-perm do you have? Well, it depends on how you recognize it, but if you recognize based on the center color like this, then you should probably be able to do this. Because if you know that these two are not opposites, then those two are opposites. You know both sides just by process of elimination. Same thing is true here. If these two are opposites, then those two are not. Going through the same thing through all the U-perms. This H-perm, it looks exactly the same from all sides. These two are opposites, those two are opposites. So that's incredibly easy. This Z-perm, it's a checkerboard across the entire thing, right? Green, or green, orange, green, orange, green, orange, green, orange. Across the entire thing. It's completely unique. Same with these J-perms down here. They are very unique, right? They have a bar, and then they have a block, a part of a block, and not a block. So not a solved cube, obviously, but the only thing that has this long bar, L shape, is a J-perm. Because L, this is the J, right? And that's the L. And the same thing over here. If you see a long bar and a block, you know that you have a J-perm. So all those, same thing. The only one here I can see kind of tripping you up here is the F-perm, T-perm, and R-perm. So the F-perm, it's just one of those things you have to realize that's the only thing that looks like it does. So first of all, we know that 2 corners are solved here. So we know we have this bar, and the only cases that have a bar in them where they're solved are either the cases where you have a U-perm, right, where all the corners are solved, or the cases where or the F-perm where only that is solved. So there's really only that case where there's the bar there. So you just and the J-perms and things like that. But like the only case where 2 corners aren't solved besides a J-perm that you have that's like this is an F-perm, so it has that bar. And you would know this was a J-perm because there would be a block here, and there isn't. So these two are not the same. You have a line. It's completely unique. You have an F-perm. Same from both angles. Now T-perms and R-perms, I can see people confusing, but it's really, really easy to tell the difference. From these angles, the way you know that this is a T-perm is because these two colors right here are the same. So the color between these two headlights is the same as the color over here on the right, and same here. So if you have the colors the same, it's a T-perm. If it's not, it's either a T-perm or an R-perm, right? And if it's not, it's an R-perm. So if they're different colors, R perm. Pretty simple. The A perms are also equally simple. And we'll go over this a little bit more, but if these two colors on the side are the same color, then that means that you have headlights, or you have two that are permuted, and you have a bar and two that are permuted, or you have a 2x1 block there, and headlights that are permuted. There's only thing that can be is A perms. The hardest part about them is figuring out where the headlights are, and as we'll go over in a second, if you have opposite colors, assuming these two are the same, right, which means corners permuted, if you have opposite colors, the headlights are always opposite them. So op. So that the headlights are opposite, or the headlights are opposite of the opposite colors. Same here. So headlights are here, headlights are there. So V perm, you know this is not an A perm because these two colors are not the same. Y perm, nothing looks like that. N perms, you have opposites, 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 opposites. So you have two blocks available and they're both opposites. That's an N perm. So those are what we're not going to go over, even though I kind of went over them a little bit. Now, moving on to this, I'm going to onto my actual description of this video. So I am going to be dividing this video into 3 sections. So the first section will be for where all corners are permuted, so U perm, H perm, and Z perms, recognizing those. Then it will also include where we have our opposite corners are not permuted, so we have, diagonal corners are not permuted, which is E, N, V, and Y. And that'll be what this video is on. The next video will go into talking about where we have adjacent corner swap, because that's the hardest ones to recognize. And that portion I might do in a second video, or I might just do it all in one. We'll see. Or I might do in 2 videos. I might just do it all in one. But that part's the hardest part. This first section I'm going over today is relatively easy. So to start out, though, you need to understand a couple of things. So we are going to recognize things from 2 sides based on a couple of patterns. So the first pattern, one sec, let me come down here and find them. The first thing we're going to be able to do is there are 3 types of corners permutations. So we're going to recognize corner permutation. So we're not necessarily going to recognize them, but it's going to be important that you understand what each of these means. We're not going to think about this when we do it. It's just going to become muscle memory. So, well, 4, I guess, if you look at it her ways. But basically, you have either all corners are permuted. So, in other words, 2 sets of headlights on each side, right here. That means all corners are permuted. If you have corners, if you look here now, actually, let's just go down for a sec. So that's all corners permuted. 2 corners permuted is where these 2 colors are the same, but these two are not. So this little corner right here needs to be swapped with that corner, and then you would have all corners permuted. So these are adjacent corner swaps as well. So I'll refer to this as either an adjacent swap or 2 corners permuted, just to clarify. And this is obviously the same thing here. These 2 corners are permuted, but that's not. And they always work either all, 2, or none. So that's just so you understand. So these 2 are the same thing. And the way we recognize this is because these 2 colors, so again we're talking about adjacent swaps, are the same on the sides. And you always know where the headlights are as well from this. This is really cool. So Sarah pointed this out, and this is invaluable or information here. If you have opposite colors, so blue and green are opposites. Just to clarify real quick, blue and green are opposite, red and orange are opposite, and yellow and white are opposite. So when I say opposites, I mean any of those sets. So if you have a set of opposites, the headlights are always opposite the opposites. I think I explained this earlier about the A perm, but opposites, opposites. Does that make sense? So headlights are opposite the opposites. So if we're just looking at corners, we already know where the 2 permuted corners are just by looking at them. And the final thing you can have is what's called a diagonal swap, or just no corners permuted. And this is recognizable pretty much by chaos, right? You can see that none of these match. But these 2 are opposites and those 2 are opposites. If you want to look at it that way, that is one way to look at it. I just say, does this match that? If the far right and the far left do not match, you have no corners permuted, or you have a diagonal swap. I don't like recognizing by 2 sets of headlights because I think that takes too much looking at things. It's much easier to start looking and then say, does this one match? So we're going to be using this in addition to a couple other little things. So first of all, we're going to use what's called a checkerboard pattern. So When I say checkerboard, you see here in the picture that she has, checkerboards are patterns of colors that are just two colors. So orange and green in this case, with the example she gives, orange and green are the checkerboard colors. And so you can have a checkerboard in the center, so 1, 2, 1, 2, so orange, green, orange, green. You can have them on the outsides, green, orange, or you can have them on the inside, green, orange, green, orange, green. Green or orange, green, orange, green, orange. So sometimes they have 5 or 6 or 5. Sometimes they have 4. Sometimes they have stickers that you're looking at. It's either 5 or 4 stickers. So that's one of the other ways we're going to recognize it. And the final 2 ways we're going to recognize is by blocks. So you see here we have 2 colors that are two stickers that are the same color. So those blocks can either be on the outside or the inside, right here. Outside, inside. So when we say outside, we refer to these sections right here, on the outside and the outside. And then when we say the inside, we refer to this little inside section right there. So they're either on the outside or the inside. That tells us a lot of information. And finally, if we see headlights, so if we see 2 permuted corners, so like back up here, if we see these 2, that tells us obviously that we have 2 permuted corners. These are the ways we're going to recognize these things. Now, I am also, so this is what she uses to recognize them. I'm going to add a little bit more to that, and I'm going to also recognize by opposites, but not necessarily opposites in this case where you have one corner here and then you skip a sticker and then another opposite. I'm going to recognize by adjacent opposites as well. Okay, so I just think that'll make things a little bit quicker, and you'll see what I mean by that when I explain that. So if you guys need to re-look over that, I completely understand. Take a moment, pause the video, go look over all that, because that information you're going to need to understand what I mean. When I say a checkerboard, I mean this. When I say a block, I mean this right here. When I say headlights, I mean headlights right here. When I say opposites, I mean opposite colors. Either I can be talking about this or I talk about opposites adjacent, like that. But you need to understand what I mean when I say those things. Alright, so now I'm going to set down good old Sarah's work. Very much so thank her. And I could not do what I'm about to do without her help. So just like to point that out. Now, we're going to start with the EPLLs, which means that you're just permuting the edges. Or another way of thinking of it as all the corners have already been solved. So yay, a lot of our work is already done. And this is really easy. There's basically 2 different types of things you can run into. You can either run into, well, okay, there's 3 different things it can be. A U-perm, an H-perm, or a Z-perm. Now, in order to distinguish between these, we look for 2 sets of patterns, okay? If we see that we have a set of opposite colors, like this, then we know we have a U-perm. So opposite colors, all corners permuted, U-perm. Okay? If we see, and the same thing here, so it'll be on the right or it'll be on the left-hand side. You see how those are opposite colors, and those are opposite colors. Oh, first before I even get going, I'd like to point out, I'm going to do these not AUF'd. So in other words, I'm not going to line them up like that because I think you need to learn to do them not AUF'd. So learn this new recognition system from any angle you're at. Don't always AUF things. That does not help you. A lot of times you can actually be wasting moves to AUF. So, well, first thing we look for is are there any opposites? And then the next thing we would look at is how many colors are available. So this is the way she explains it. Colors available. I'm gonna slightly change this. So when she says colors available, she means within these 3 right here, is there 1, 2, 3, 3, right? Because there's only blue here. So this is 3 colors, and this is 3 colors, right? Because there's 2 of the same green. This, however, is 4 colors. You see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 colors. That's what we're referring to. But I actually look at this a little bit differently, and I just say, okay, I know I don't have headlights, or I don't have opposites, sorry. I don't have opposite colors on either of these. Now I ask, does this color match that color, or does that color match that color? So these 2 match, you see here, and if these 2 match, that means we only have 3 colors. Does that make sense? Because if they didn't match, if it can only be 3 or 4, and if they match, then we're missing 1 set of colors, so we have 3 automatically. And the same thing, it can match here and here, or here and here. Both of those are 3 colors. And both of those tell us that we have a U-perm, just so you know. And if they don't match, if neither of those match, like over here, then we have a Z-perm. So your first definite always thing to notice, if there's no headlight, or if there's no opposites, and there's 4 colors, or neither of these match either of these, you have a Z-perm. So first thing you always know. Now that I've kind of explained that, let's go back to the first set. So remember, there were 2 ways. The first way we're going to recognize things is if we see a set of opposites. If we see a set of opposite colors, we know we have a U-perm. Just so you realize. You can check, I'm right, not lying. You always have a U-perm. And that's because this sticker, or this edge, needs to switch with the edge behind it. Same with this right here. This is what happens. When you have opposites, it means that one of these needs to switch with the one behind it. Now, the only other thing you really need to know, so you know you have a U-perm here, right? We know we have opposites, which means we know that this is opposites, and we know that this isn't. So our question is the bar here, or is the bar here? That's the difficult question, right? And it's actually not that difficult. It's 1, something you can memorize, and 2, something you can easily logic your way through. So first of all, is there ever a time when this is opposites on the front, and the bar is directly behind it? And the answer would be no. So there's not ever a bar behind opposites. There's always a bar to the left or to the right of opposites. So the way I always remember this is if you have opposites on the left-hand side, or the front if you want to look at it, the front, but I just like to say left and right. If you look at it kind of like this, it's left side and that's right side. If you have it on the left, the bar is to the left. If you have it on the right, the bar is to the right. So just so you realize. So that's how you recognize it, and that's where you. So from this, you can. I don't know. See, I don't actually know the names of all the like U-perm A and B. I believe that this is a U-perm B and this is a U-perm A. I think this is right, but I honestly don't know that, and I don't think that's at all useful. What's useful is to know what you have, so you know what to execute. So that's how you can tell the difference between these. And now coming back to these right here, where we didn't have headlights, but we know they're U-perms because they have 3 colors, right? So this is the process we've gone through in our head. We said, okay, we have 3 colors. We know these are U-perms, or the way that we look at it is these 2 match, and in this case, these 2 match. So we know we have U-perms here. But where's the bar? We have the same question, right? Where's the bar? Well, this question is also pretty easy. Whichever way, so I don't necessarily have a really good logic for this. This is just kind of an experience thing. But whichever way the corners, or the 2 matching colors is pointing, so see how this color and this color match? You're pointing towards the back. That points towards the bar. So if the bar is always either behind, right here, or it's right here. So it's there or there, right? Adjacents. And so we know that the bar is right here because this color and this color match, and they point to there. And this, on the other hand, the bar is right here because this color and that color match, and they point to it. So they just kind of point to it. That's the way I memorize it. I would look here, process I go through when I see this. These 2 are the same. The bar points to there. Or these 2 are the same. I see nothing that catches my attention, which means I don't have headlights, right? I don't have opposites. Opposites should always catch your attention. If they don't catch your attention, I go, are these the same? Yes, they are. And they point that way. Sweet. The bar is here. I know exactly what I have. Same with this one. Bar is or same color. Point that way. Bar is there. I'm good. And so yeah, that is how you recognize U-perms, E-perms, and H-perms. Now H-perms, again, the H-perm is exactly the same all across. So the H-perm that I showed you earlier, where I said it's the same, doesn't matter what if you ever see that, you have an H-perm. And again, really quickly, so this Z-perm, this is a Z-perm because this does not match that, and that does not match that. And what we have here is we have a Z-perm from the side. So most people recognize Z-perm by these 2 switching and those 2 switching. I actually execute my algorithm from right here. So for me, this is a good thing. I go, yes, I don't have to AUF. But for you, you may need to AUF, and you can either do a U or U prime based on which direction you're in. But alright, so now, moving on to E, N, V, or Y. So now we are going to recognize things in a different manner. So if what we're looking here is at blocks, so we see 2 sets of the same color, we only have 1 block. So E, N, V, and Y is recognized by the fact that you have a block here well, one of the ways to recognize is you have a block here, or a block here. So the other one was the outside. These are insides, right? Inside block, and right here you have checker patterns, like this right here. So you see I have a checker pattern here, and I have a checker pattern on the outside here. Or you don't have a checker pattern like this, which would be something different. We'll go over that in a second. But that's basically the way we're going to recognize them. And the key always here is this color and that color do not match, which means we have an E, N, V, or Y. Okay? So now these two right here. We have the bar on the outside, like this, and these two colors do not match. Those two do not match. If we have that, we have a V perm. It's very simple. If it's on the outside, those two colors do not match, we have a V perm. If it's on the inside, if our little bar is on the inside like this, and those two colors do not match, our bar here and our bar here, we have a Y perm. If you look at it, the Y, you're just basically looking at half the Y perm on both of these right here. There's no other case that looks like this where they're in the same thing, so it's a Y perm. Very simple. Now, if we have a checker pattern, so that's how you tell the difference between those two. Now, if you have no blocks at all, then you will have either a checker pattern. Oh goodness, I keep flipping this thing around, getting confused. Okay, you have a checker pattern either in the center, like this right here. So orange, blue, orange, or sorry, I can't see through the camera. Red, blue, or on the outside right here, or on the outside right here, which is orange, or green, orange, like that. So if you have it on the inside, then you have a V perm, because these two need to switch, and those two need to switch. That's all that needs to happen in order for this cue to be solved. If you have it on the outside, you have a Y perm, because those two need to be switched, and those two need to be switched. I mean, you don't have to understand why, but you can just simply know. Outside, V perm. Inside, or outside, Y perm. Inside, V perm. Like this. And I was always thinking, like, this looks like a block, right? Which is how the V perm is. It's got a block in it. And this does not look like it has a block in it, which is what the Y perm is. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, well, what about the E perm? Well, the E perm is actually the easiest perm of all the perms to recognize. So a lot of people have trouble recognizing them. I think it's one of the easiest ones possible. The reason is, it's exactly the same from all angles. Well, virtually the same. It looks the same. So if you see it, you know you have it. And the way you know you have it is these two colors aren't the same, right? And these, well, okay, basically, you do not have headlights anywhere. You do not have a bar anywhere, which once we get to the last section of the next one, you'll really be able to tell the difference. You do not have a bar anywhere, do not have a headlights anywhere, and you know that these two are opposites. So you don't have checker patterns, you don't have headlights, you don't have a bar, you don't have anything. It's really easy. And the way you know if you can execute this, so this is solvable right now. Like if I were to execute it from this angle, I'd solve it. Assuming you use the Rohester E-perm, I'm not sure about other E-perms. If these two colors are the same, then you cannot, or wait, right, I think you can. Oh, sorry, wait, you cannot solve it from there. I am stupid, wasn't really looking at it properly. I thought these two were different colors. If these two colors are the same, you cannot execute it. If they're not the same, then you can execute it. So if you execute it from here right now, it should solve it. You see it solved it and move it over. So very easy to recognize. Alright, I think I went over everything. This is a lot of kind of memorization, but it's honestly not that bad. If you just sit down and think them through a little bit and work through them, you should be able to do them. So I'll see you next time, or talk to you next time.